Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. Board Game Gumbo Live is the #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Brett, that's because we're the only Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. That's okay.
I love it.
Yeah, we're holding on to that mantle as long as we can. My special guest tonight, Brett Sobol of Nauvoo Games. We're going to be talking gaming, maybe some conventions, hopefully get a scoop or two if we can, but definitely we're going to be talking about Nauvoo Games' latest game, The Reckoners, coming out on Kickstarter soon. Don't forget, Gumbo Live is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Check out some of the other fine members, like the Draft Mechanic podcast. Jake and Danielle talk about beer and board games on every show. Their taste in games is very close to mine. I usually find a great game to discover during any one of their podcasts. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hit me up on social media, Twitter @BoardGameGumbo, or on Facebook, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo. But enough blather and show notes, Brett. Let's get to our guest, Brett Sobol of Nauvoo Games. Hey, man, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, you've heard the elevator pitch. Give us the elevator pitch. Who is Brett and what is Nauvoo Games?
So my name is Brett Sobol. I have been a gamer for forever, and I was actually recruited by Seth Van Orden, who's my partner in Nauvoo Games, and together we co-founded the company about 3 years ago, and our first hit was Stockpile. And since then, we've also done an expansion for Stockpile, Crosstalk, and now our newest game, The Reckoners, which is going to be coming to Kickstarter here in a couple of weeks. And we strive to make beautiful games. That's actually what Nauvoo Games means in Hebrew, is beautiful. So we go for beautiful games that have innovative mechanics and really try to bring our own innovative and fresh takes into the board gaming world.
You guys are great game designers. Stockpile, one of my top 10 games when it came out. I actually got a demo from Seth at Gen Con back in 2016 and walked right over to the booth with my buddy Philip, and we bought Stockpile and we bought Continuing Corruption, the expansion, right there from you, actually, in the booth. That was a great experience, and I can't even tell you how many times I played that game. It's so easy to introduce to new gamers, but it's also the kind of game where it has enough meat on the bone where all of my gamer friends inside the Crew to Gumbo, they want to play it every time we can play it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm thrilled that you love it. It's really, a manifestation, I think, of everything that we want to create at Nauvoo. It's that family-friendly yet, kind of gateway. I don't love that term, but gateway game that anyone can play and pick up, runs in under an hour, and it's something that we just absolutely adore.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo Live. Steve O'Rourke checking in, the name father from the Dukes of Dice. He says, hello, BJ and Brett. Looking forward to a great show. Hey, Steve. So, Brett, tell me, Gen Con, big convention, millions of games that come out. Since Gen Con, what's the best game you've played?
Best game I've played since Gen Con. So Gloomhaven, I didn't actually get a chance to get it to the table until after Gen Con. And for me, I fell in love with it even after only playing it for a very short amount of time compared to, I feel like, what it has the capability to be played.
Sure.
But I thought it was terrific. I look forward to getting a chance to play it more often. So that would be my biggest favorite game, I guess.
How deep have you gotten into Gloomhaven? Because that's actually been a pretty popular choice here on Gumbo Live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're not the only one.
I have not scratched the surface. I feel like there's a ton, and I'm eager to try to play it more.
You guys do a lot of family gaming, gateway gaming outside of the company just for free time?
It feels like all the games I play lately are company and games and prototype games, but occasionally, over the holidays is the most common, I think, when I get the chance to do that. So it's family and gateway type stuff.
How heavy is Nauvoo Games convention schedule during the year? How much are you and Seth on the road?
Not often, to be honest. We both have full-time jobs, so Nauvoo Games for us is really just a labor of love, and we do it nights and weekends, kind of burning the midnight oil. And for us, we try to get to conventions, but we both also have young kids, so our time is pretty scarce. We always try to go to Gen Con, and we went to PAX Unplugged this year because it's here in Philadelphia where I'm based, so it was an easy win. I think we'll probably continue to do those two until something else comes up. We've talked about going to Essen because we've had some requests from a lot of our European fans, so that's probably the next one I would choose. We went to Origins many years ago, but it's hard to swing two in the same summer. So right now, PAX, Unplugged, and Gen Con.
A popular topic this year on social media has been PAX Unplugged versus BGG versus Gen Con. Well, you haven't been to BGG, I'm assuming.
No, I actually have never been to BGG Con.
So how do you compare PAX Unplugged and Gen Con?
They're totally different. PAX and Gen Con have very different audiences from what I was able to see. Granted, I didn't get to leave the booth all that often, but from the people that were engaging us, you could tell a difference in their level of, I'll just call it game knowledge or understanding in the industry. I feel like I heard people at PAX Unplugged saying like, what is Munchkin almost, or like, oh, I never heard of this game and it's one of the most popular games of all time. And then the people at Gen Con who have a very different mentality, who know what they want. They make lists months in advance. I just would sum it up like this. Gen Con is definitely like a gamer show where they go to buy games. And of course there's a playing aspect to that too, but just to be, brief really. And then on the PAX side, it was discovery, and you're talking to a new set of customers who may dislike the PAX brand and are discovering something for the first time. So for me, I really enjoyed both shows. I like engaging people who are not in the hobby yet and trying to get them to understand why we love what we do and the different games that we have. It's a great opportunity for us as a company to get, new customers and new fans. So I really like that aspect. But of course, Gen Con's the best time because I get to engage with people I've known now for several years and who have stories about Stockpile. So they're both terrific. Yeah.
So PAX Unplugged, the rumor was about 20,000 people in turnstile tickets each day. And I'm thinking that for a younger company like Nauvoo Games, in front of a 20,000 member audience that doesn't have any allegiance to favorite companies or favorite games, wasn't that a great chance for you to get your name up front as a brand that these guys are going to say, oh, when their next game comes out, I'm ready for it?
I think so. We were leading at PAX Unplugged with Crosstalk, which is a social party game. So I feel like it was a perfect fit for that because it's very fast and easy to learn. And like we were talking before the show, you get somebody down and they can play it in under 30 seconds, and that is what people loved about it. And it's the mechanics in it are nothing crazy. It's a party game in essence. So we really, I think, had a great opportunity to build our brand, to show it a new game off to customers. And in fact, we actually ended up selling out a Crosstalk at the show, which is not something that a lot of other companies did. There are, I think there's going to be some inventory resizing from some companies when they go back to PAX next year, just given the different show demographics that we saw.
Steve checking in. BJ from Board Game Gumbo Live here with my guest Brett Sobol of Nauvoo Games. Steve says, unlikely I'll travel far for a big con, but PAX Unplugged is close enough to drive and even make a day trip. He lives in New York. Might break the seal on con attendance in 2018. I saw a lot of people coming in from New York for this convention. Some people day trippers, some people there for the whole time. But there's a big rumor as to whether or not Steve O'Rourke is actually a human being or just a bot. So if we could somehow get him to an actual live convention, we could confirm whether or not he exists. That'd be great. Maybe you could do that for me next year, because I don't think I'm going to make PAX Unplugged.
Well, Steven, if you come by the Nauvoo Games booth, I'll be sure to tap in the CAPTCHA just to make sure that you're you're real.
I had to do that tonight. My son, at this very moment, is broadcasting a live, what does he call it, Rocket League?
Oh, sure. I've heard of that. It's on Steam, or I've seen it, but I don't.
He's broadcasting a live Rocket League tournament on Twitch, and I had to sign up for it. And
it's like a game or something, isn't it?
Something like that. I
have no idea. Okay.
I've done some broadcasting, so I was able to kind of help him and critique him on the way it was going. But I'll be honest, I had no idea what was going on the screen. No. So Steve says, I think, therefore I am. At least I think I do. Very nice, Steve. All right, so that wraps up your convention schedule for 2018. You're looking at, if fans want to see you, PAX Unplugged and then Gen Con, and maybe mix in one other convention if you could?
Yeah, definitely plan on PAX and Gen Con. Follow us on social media if you need to if you want to check out our con schedule. We're usually announcing where our booth placements are at least a month before.
What's the favorite convention for Brett the gamer versus the favorite convention for Nauvoo Games, the business?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite as a gamer has been Origins, and I feel like will always be Origins. I just remember going there a couple of years ago when we first debuted Stockpile, and commercially it went fine, but I had never had so much dedicated time to just like playing games, sitting in like the cabs library and just cranking out game after game. And I feel like at big shows like Gen Con, it's either impossible to find table space,
right?
Comfortable table space, and B, it's hard to find a game that you want and you want to play. The library is always they do a good job, but I feel like there's just so many people checking stuff out that's hot that it's hard to get your hands on it. And Origins really has a great small con feel to it as far as just like playing games, and I had a terrific time there. I've heard great things about some other shows, but that's the only one I've been to for playing games.
So you and Seth are the co-designers of the games from Nauvoo Games, right?
That's correct.
Right. Because I know Stockpile had both of your names on it. Do you guys share the same kind of gaming taste? When you play games, what do you like to play? What does Seth like to play? Does it match up?
Often it does, but there's
but not always.
There's a running there's a couple of mechanics that I particularly enjoy that Seth does not. Notoriously, time tracks are a favorite of mine, just in terms of like mechanisms and how you decide which actions to do, or when the game will end, etc. And it's just a running joke that whenever we design a new game and I'm going to provide some sort of developer comment, he's like, I swear if it's going to add a time track into it, I'm going to start ignoring you right now.
Too early for that.
So inevitably we have never created probably will never create a game with a time track in it, but I still find they have a soft spot in my heart. So games, what I mean by time track, games like Patchwork, or Olympos, or some other ones are blanking in my head, Craftwagon, or a couple others. But But
is it also like Pandemic, where you have a certain amount of turns based on the cards that you have to overturn? That's really a time track when you think about it.
Yeah, to some degree, I guess I would consider that a time track, but I don't know if that's as much of a time track per se. Is this sort of like that's just really like you have a finite amount of time until the game ends.
That's it.
But it's not that you are choosing how much time to spend every turn. It's consistent, okay. Right? The difference would be, I want to spend a small amount of time to do an action that's maybe less effective, or I can choose to spend way more of my time to do something big now. So it's the choice of spending the time that I think makes it a mechanic.
And Olympos has that, if I remember right.
Yeah, it does. It's a pretty bare bones, thing. There's really only 2 actions in the game, if I remember, and it's like you can build a wonder or research like a technology, and that's like 7 time, or you can choose to like move a troop, and that's like as many zones as you want, but it's one time per zone or something like that, and it's just 2 choices.
And I know that's the same mechanic in Patchwork, and there's another game. I'm just going to draw a blank right now, where depending on the amount, you actually have time tokens, but you get a better action if you spend more of those time tokens. I'm just drawing a blank. It's a game we played a bunch of times since Dice Art Con. It'll come to me later on if I can think of it. That is an interesting choice, because it gives you that juicy decision about, I really want to take that action.
Thieves. Thank you, Steven. That's what I was thinking. I was trying to think of Thieves. That's one of the classic ones. Good call.
Francis Drake as well, and Takedo, given that the last person chooses how far to travel, though that game is rather chill as far as enjoying the journey. He and I play Takedo on BGA every week with a couple other guys from the Dukes of Dice, and deciding how far you want to go out, which is going to shorten the game up, but might give you that jump on whatever action the other players couldn't take. But of course, winning the game means getting as many actions as you can, because that gives you the chance to score even more points. It's a tough decision in that game.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the other reasons time tracks are appealing to is that generally tends to be lower AP because you're only willing to go so far in terms of how much time you're wanting to spend. So I feel like it's a great way of narrowing scope in terms of what your decision window is. And I particularly just enjoy it. I don't, for whatever reason.
So here's the unusual thing about Nauvoo Games. So you have Stockpile, a great, it's sort of an auction bidding game, of course, where you're splitting up the stocks, but you've got Crosstalk, straight party game, right, with a twist.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the game we're going to be talking about, The Reckoners, big co-op game, lots of minis and all that.
Yeah.
That's pretty different in terms of the offerings that you have. So you said Nauvoo Games, we're looking for beautiful games that families can play that are going to look good on the table, relatively simple mechanics, but a lot of meat on the bones, right?
That's right.
So we could see lots of different other games from Nauvoo Games coming out, not just not just Euro style or party style or anything like that.
Yeah,
is the field's wide open?
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, for us, we love games really in all their forms. Seth might beg to differ on that, but I think so. And what we want to do is bring out the best of, each genre and continue to build on, some of the newer mechanics and great ideas that we've seen in other places and then add our own, taste to them. And I think that's the beauty of what we've been seeing in the board game world over the past few years is more and more designers getting into the space and flexing their own, creative muscles really. And I would say that we are looking to do the same thing across different genres. So it could be a Euro next. It could, we have plenty of ideas there. It could be, a micro card game. We have all sorts of different thoughts and ideas. And I don't want to, pigeonhole us into anything. We just want to try something that, has been done before, but then bring a refreshing new twist to it that just makes sense and is beautiful, works simply, and can play with families, and usually packs a punch in under 60 minutes. That's the idea.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo live here with Brett from Nauvoo Games. I'm curious, you're in Philly and Seth is on the west side, right?
He's in Madison, Wisconsin. Oh,
in Wisconsin. Okay, I'm sorry. So he's in Wisconsin, you're in Philly. How does that work in terms of game development?
It's a lot of phone calls. He and I talk probably every day, and we are discussing whatever playtest we just had, whatever new artwork just got made. It's constant. We are in constant communication, and I would say it's a disadvantage in some ways because we would be able to rapidly make progress on our designs so much faster. But I would say it's a big benefit because we remove a lot of bias that comes from, I think, just internally playtesting with just designers in like a room, because it forces me and him to go out, find new groups to playtest our ideas. And so that's why I feel when we come to market with something, it's really ironed out. And we've got, a lot of the kinks and questions and all that stuff answered because somebody inevitably brought it up because they're not our best friend for 15 years that's sitting beside us trying to say, oh, we're working on this game together, it'll be it's great, don't worry about that. It's everything's scrutinized, and I feel like we have a very skeptical and critical view of whatever the other person has to say, but it's healthy. We both have our own ideas and argue them and defend them, and ultimately I think the best one wins out.
How does playtesting work? Good kind of follow-up question on that. How does that work for you guys in different cities? Do you each have your own playtest groups?
Yeah, we do. Sometimes that's just our spouses, and other times it's another poor set of souls that has to sit around and play a game with a bunch of printed laminated paper and some bits. And we find some guinea pigs somewhere, so we're pretty fortunate.
What are you looking for in terms of feedback? Not just generic, I like the game, I don't like the game. How deep do you want the feedback to be?
I think that depends on the stage of the development in the game. Early on, it is a lot less about like, this specific thing is balanced or broken, and it's more about what emotions did you feel during the playing of the game? What did you find fun? What did you find hard to understand? If you forgot something, what was it? Type of a thing, which is kind of a catch-22 question. But,
sure.
I would like to, focus on just what are the players' reactions, what are their feelings, likes, dislikes, and that sort of thing, and really break the essence of what they say down into, something like confusion or excitement, joy, discovery, and take those emotions and then build on them with new mechanics. And I'll rip half, if not more, of whatever the old sign was, and then keep moving until I've got the emotional cocktail that I want the game to be. And from there, that's when the balancing comes. And when I'm looking for more feedback towards what the balance is, or what the, presentation and, user experience and interface is going to be with the game. And then Seth and I take it another level, which is like passing muster between the two of us, which when we have different visions of what the hell this is supposed to be, I think it really becomes refined at that point.
That makes sense. BJ from Board Game Gumbo here with Gumbo Live. It's season 2, and I've got Brett Sobol of Nauvoo Games talking about their big new game, The Reckoners. I've got a picture of it here on the screen. I'm totally excited for this, Brett. I'm geeking out a little bit here because I saw you guys on Twitter talking about how it was close. I actually visited with you guys at Gen Con, my son and I, Gen Con 2016, where we found out about it. And I just tore through all 3 books by Brandon Sanderson of The Reckoners during the Thanksgiving holidays, and it just got me really excited for this game. So tell me about The Reckoners. How close are we? How excited are you guys about the Kickstarter? And just the elevator pitch of what is the game?
Yeah, I'll start with the game itself. So The Reckoners is going to be a co-op game, a pure co-op game that plays 1 to 6 players, and its mechanics are a lot of simultaneous action selection and dice rolling.
Nice.
So everyone's taking their turn at the same time, and you guys are all acting as different members of the Reckoners team, which for those of you that haven't read the book series, you're essentially like a group of operatives, and your goal is to take down a big bad villain whose name is Steelheart in the series. So over the course of about 75 minutes, you and your fellow Reckoners are going to be managing dice rolls, potentially buying new equipment cards that could give you upgrades to your dice, buying even new dice, kind of creating your own little engine and set of resource management skills that you can employ to ultimately take him down before the city of Nukago is decimated. So that's a quick bit on the game. What else did you want to know?
Hey, the first thing that I want to talk about is the artwork. I mean, I just couldn't get over this thing. And let me throw up a picture. This stuff is stunning. I'm not sure who did this, if it's the same artist from your other games or not, I'm throwing up a picture of it. It looks like 4 character cards or character art.
Yeah, we have Miguel Coimbra is the illustrator. He is the mad scientist who is behind a couple of very prominent games. You've probably heard of Seven Wonders,
Sure.
and Cyclades. I recently did Outlive, I believe is the name of it.
Sure.
And he has a ton of other credits that are in the top BGG, 200 or 300 or so. Really terrific visionary, and we're delighted to work with him to bring the game to life. From an illustrative perspective. So he's been terrific. And, we're going to have a ton of content with regards to illustrations. So those are only 4 of the epics in the game. Those are all from the book series. But we've got, I think, almost 30 of those size cards. There are tarot size cards that are going to be big illustrations representing these different epics, not to mention, different parts of the city and other things as well.
So Steelheart is not the only epic that's portrayed in the game, then, right?
Right. Steelheart is the big bad epic, and if you want to think of it, he's got a bunch of lieutenants or henchmen underneath him, which consist of epics like these here, or his enforcement, which is kind of like his police squad. So that's those are all the different people that you're ultimately playing against in the game.
Yeah, Steve says, haven't read the series, looked up the theme of the books, and it sounds pretty cool. Have to add it to my to-read list. The theme of the series, I'm struggling to talk about it because although it's in the first 5 pages of the book, you kind of figure out part of it. It's a battle between the Reckoners, these agents or operatives, as you said, against the big bads, which are a twist of what we think of who they are. I mean, that, without spoiling too much, I think that kind of says it. But what I'm curious about is something that Brian Baker on BGG had to say. Is there any spoilers in this game? Can we play this if we haven't read the books yet? Somebody like Steve O'Rourke?
I'm glad you brought up that question. You can certainly play it without having read the series. It won't spoil anything. We were deliberate in choosing not to spoil something because we want to get people engaged with the series and have them read it, pick it up, or listen to it however they want to consume it. It's terrific. To build on what you're saying and what people I guess can find out quickly online. I mean, the book series is primarily around some sort of we'll call it a extraterrestrial event, I guess, some crazy one-time event that happens where there's a burst in the sky and a bunch of people develop these superpowers. Right. And then slowly afterward, those people who develop powers turned evil, and the public started calling them epics. These epics sort of rose in power and remade the world in their own image, with the most powerful of them beginning to rule basically city-states as godlike entities. And it wasn't long before, there was altercations between them and the government and everything else. And the world sort of fractured as a result of these superpowered individuals who, in many cases, couldn't be killed, sort of rising to power. The books take place with a young protagonist named David, whose father was killed by Steelheart, who is this head epic at in the city of New Chicago, which is Chicago in this world. And it really follows his quest for vengeance and finding out there's a lot more in terms of this whole world of epics, and that's really the quick premise. But it's super exciting, and we've been thrilled to work with Brandon and his team. And in fact, if you are supporting the Reckoners on Kickstarter here in a couple of weeks, we're going to have some exclusive content that was written by Brandon that is not seen anywhere else in any of the books. We're going to have some new bits that we're going to be releasing to our backers as part of some promos. So that'll take the form of some extra epics in the game, as well as probably some manifestation, maybe a card or several. But we have several paragraphs from Brandon on other parts of the world and other epics that he built out a little bit more for us for this campaign.
Hey, Jay Peak checking in. Jay does the videos where he actually makes things that can help you with your board game room, or just he does all these crazy things. You got to see some of his videos. It's all kind of projects dealing with board games. And he says, "Good luck, Brett. Good luck, Brett, with your project, guys. Looking pretty slick so far." He is right. This project is looking pretty slick. You guys, I'm not sure if these are prototypes or these are the final versions, but I've been taking a look at some of the things, like, for instance, all the different dice you have here in the game. It looks like individual dice for individual players, maybe? What's going on right here?
Yeah, I'll show you. So there are going to be 42 custom dice in the game, and they're all big chunky dice, 19 millimeter dice. So I mean, if you played like Emotep, they're like the size of those cubes, or if you have the expansion for Stockpile, it's the same size of those dice. They're big chunky dice. So everyone actually has 6 dice to start the game. Some are color coordinated to their player color, and some are more general colored. So these are a sample that we received. We really like the look of it. We're going to maintain this sort of transparent resin material that you can it's got the kind of high techy vibe feel almost to it, more modern-y feel to the dice. So yeah, it is I mean primarily a dice rolling and resource using game.
I remember, is it Firefight from the books?
Yeah.
And I grabbed an image off of BGG. It looks like a tray with Firefight in there.
Yeah, so this is so the Reckoners is actually not. We're doing something that we've never seen with the game. I know Wasteland Express has done something with regard to these trays, but what we're doing is we're actually going to be taking the board and moving it to a bunch of these miniature trays. So the whole game is going to be taking place among a bunch of different trays. This is what's called the city district tray, and it represents one of the different areas of New Cago. Rather than putting it on a map or a big game board, we're going to have up to 7 of these different district trays based on the number of players that you play with. Each district tray will have a spot at the top right because we are going to have miniatures in the game and other things that you're going to have to put up there. And then there's a card that goes in the top left. And you'll notice there's this cool little plastic slider that goes left to right on there. So it's one of the things that's interesting in how the game fights you is that really represents the amount of, we'll call, actions that are charged by these superpower guys. And they will perform all these actions against you every round that they're not, defeated or contained. So you really have to triage a lot of different problems in order to win the game. And at the bottom, what you're seeing are really their health and research tracks. We didn't get too much into this, but the quick bit is that every epic has like a weakness, sort of like a Superman's kryptonite, and the purple track represents you discovering what that weakness is, which ultimately helps you to defeat them, which is the skull, their health.
Very interesting. I found a couple other ones here that looked familiar. Let's see. Can you see that up there now?
Yeah.
What are we looking at here? It's not a district tray, right?
Nope, that is a player tray. So everyone's going to actually get one of those as well. And you'll notice that there is a bunch of spots at the bottom. So the idea is that the mechanic you're doing every round is dice rolling and sort of like dice keeping in many ways. It's a Yahtzee or maybe a King of Tokyo style where you roll all your dice, you choose one to keep, or more than one if you'd like, re-roll all of them that you didn't keep and continue to do that up to 3 times. So essentially dice rolling and re-rolling, and then you'll lock in your dice in the different spots. And then once everyone has finished rolling their dice, because you're actually doing that simultaneously, all the players will be doing that same sort of mechanic of rolling and keeping, then you'll all simultaneously spend your dice, and you just spend them by moving them from the bottom of your tray into the middle there with those different sockets. The bottom left of that, you'll notice, has a symbol on it, which is sort of like a wild resource that you can store in that little tray area.
Hannah Doan checking in. Thank you for watching the show. She says, as a fan of the books, I've been super impressed with all the art I've seen so far for the game. And Brett, that raises a pretty good question. People that read these books already have David, and they already have the professor, and they already have, Firefight, and they already have all these characters in their minds. How tough was that translating Brandon's imagination into the artwork for this board game?
That was extremely difficult. I mean, it's something we worked very closely with them on, but for us, it was our first foray into IP. We wanted to be good stewards of their brand and their lore, and to tell you the truth, I feel like I did my homework and combed through every detail of the book, reread it multiple times, looking for painstaking details with anything that talked about how a character looked, was presented, what their mannerisms were, how their powers or whatever manifested. And then ultimately I communicated that to our artist who translated it beautifully. And then I brought it back to them and was like, what do you think? Do you have any feedback? Is something wrong? Does something need to be fixed? And to be frank, because I put in so much work up front, they were like, holy crap, this is awesome. Like, I really appreciated all the work you put into it, because they just loved it. And they said it was some of the best artwork they'd ever seen, especially for any of their books they've ever done, not just the Reckoners, but any of them. So we're super pumped. And I'm glad that we, invested the time to take good care of it, because I think it's fantastic.
Man, I love talking to people that are passionate, and you are obviously passionate not only about the series, but about the games. But beyond the passion, what was it like working with the Brandon Sanderson team on a game? I mean, on a game based on an IP that you just love. I mean, this is not just a game for you.
So cool, man. It's so cool. I mean, it's one of those things where, you never thought, I don't know, like a couple of years ago when we were thinking about this, it was like, oh, it'll be fun. Let's make like a stock game. Like, that'll be cool. I'm a big finance nerd and love that kind of stuff. So awesome. But then it started taking a route to like, oh my gosh, like, we have a chance to, publish an IP. That would be really cool. That'd be a lot of fun. Like, we have all these great series and, that we love to read, and we have these great mechanics for games. Why don't we just marry the two and Yeah, it's just been awesome. I guess I never really thought it would happen, and getting a chance to work with somebody like Brandon and his team, who's also really passionate about just bringing his content to his audience in a different way that can engage them, it's been excellent. So super, super cool experience.
Has Brandon played the game?
Brandon himself has not played the game, but several people on his team have. Our goal is obviously to get Brandon to play it pretty soon.
Sure.
His time's pretty precious, but
Yeah, he's got some books to finish.
yeah, exactly. Not to mention like new ones he's starting. So yeah, he's on our list to get to play the game, and we'll see. But we're excited that we could at least get some exclusive content written for us. So we'll count that as a win. But yeah, I think Brandon will sit down and play this at some point with his team once they get a copy in their hands.
PJ from Board Game Gumbo Live. I've got my guest, Brett from Nauvoo Games. We're talking about the Reckoners coming out on Kickstarter. We forgot to mention the date. When is the Kickstarter starting?
Yeah, so we're slightly changing the date from what's currently on Facebook. We'll be making that announcement tomorrow. So our official date is going to end up being February 13th. We're pushing it back just to, there's some approvals in this whole process with working with an IP. And occasionally that and some, manufacturing and art, just a whole, combination of everything coming together sometimes pushes a Kickstarter back. So we're giving it a little extra buffer just to make sure that everything kind of comes together at the right time. And we're confident that February 13th, everything's ready to go. We'll be making that announcement tomorrow, like I said. Probably
our first scoop on the show.
Yeah, with launching our Kickstarter video, or at least part one of our Kickstarter video, either tomorrow or the day after, just to make it official and give everybody some insight into what this game's going to be all about.
Steve O'Rourke checking in. He says, do you think that the fact that the books have not yet been adopted into movies or TV shows made the process easier or tougher? The images haven't been spoon-fed to viewers yet, so you aren't copying anything. On the other hand, you also have the reader's unique inner vision to satisfy. True or false? Easier or tougher?
Good question. I think it's been easier. There's more leeway, it feels like, with regards to interpretation. I'm not trying to, I guess I'm not trying to make it exactly fit into this outline, which gives me more room to express my own inner vision in a way and kind of make the characters in the way that almost I see. So in the sense that's easier. I would say maybe it's harder in a sense that I'm hard on myself to like just going through and looking for those details and, asking some of the questions like why are they going to look that way? And making sure that it's exactly right is really like the whole burden's been, I feel like, on me. So I would say it's easier, but there's definitely some aspects that made it harder, I would say, too.
A couple of other elements I want to look at. Take a look at this one. I've got another tray.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here?
That is a Steelheart board,
Okay.
or what I'll call the Steelheart tray and board. But so what you're seeing is on the left, Steelheart is the big bad guy. So of course he doesn't have just one of those tracks that affects you. He has multiple of them that he's going to hit you with every round. And on the right hand side, there'll actually be two different pieces that go on the far right. One will be a health track like you're seeing, and one will be a research track. So essentially, he has a bolt ton of, research that needs to be done to find his weakness and a lot of damage that needs to be done to ultimately defeat him. So you kind of track it all here. And we built it in such a way that it can be easily modified for difficulty levels. You'll notice the left side is actually comprised of a smaller piece on the left-hand side and a bigger piece on the right-hand side. And that allows you to really customize, how hard you want to play the game, as well as modify it for the big player range that we have, so it'll scale well. In addition, we also have the idea, not quite the exact plan yet, but the idea that this will ultimately be modified as a game to include expansion content for other big epics. As this game primarily takes place in the city of New Congo, our goal would be to introduce the new locations like New Babalar and Ildithia and some of the other prominent cities and high epics that will be missing from this base game.
Cool. All right, we got one more to look at here. Yeah, and I love the idea that you guys are already planning out and working on the content for the expansions, because the way that these modular trays, I mean, it seems like it's ripe. It's just ripe for expansion. And then let's see what we're looking at here. All right, so it looks like a view maybe of the minis. Having some technical difficulties. I think we lost Brett there for a second. Let's see if I can get him back. Let's see, Brett. PJ from Board Game Gumbo here. We have some technical difficulties. We lost out on Brett. Let me see if I can get him back here. I've got him in the lobby, but I don't see him coming up here. No, we don't have his picture yet. So we'll keep going on with the show the way it is. So Kickstarter for this, The Reckoners. It's an IP from Brandon Sanderson. Game designed by Brett Sobol and Seth Van Orden from Nauvoo Games. It's coming out on Kickstarter. We just got the word from Brett Sobol on February 13th. So we are going to definitely mark that to take a look at it. He's our special guest, Brett Sobol. Let's see if we can get him back up, but I still don't see him here. Apologize about the technical difficulties. I'm not sure what's happening. Yeah, I think we are losing Brett there. Yeah, it's just yeah, that's right, Steve. Looks like just a still image. Yeah, sorry. So Steve's got a couple of comments. Love the design of the offset angled cube track. That's one of the first things I noticed, Steve. Instead of just being straight trays, and they look like game trays type things. It's got these offset or twisted or turned around different little cubes, all in different sizes, they're in different shapes. It's really striking on the table. I can't wait to see that. Drew Bradshaw checking in here. Drew says, oh my goodness, just saw this, so excited. Did you guys go over how it plays and such? We did. Brett came on earlier and talked a little bit about how the game, and let me see, while we're waiting for him to come back, let me see if I can show you some of the things that we showed, Drew. The first thing I'm going to show you is some of that awesome card art, man. Drew, take a look at this. This is all representative of some of the Epic's lieutenants. You remember from the book series that guys like Steelheart, who were really powerful, had people that were less powerful that were working for them with special powers. And I mean, this artwork is just gorgeous. There's another one that he showed us that kind of shows how the game, it's basically simultaneous dice rolling. So all of the players are actually playing at the same time, developing their own special powers as the individual reckoners, and all going after the different little lieutenants. And once you get past the lieutenants, finally going after the big bad. Hoping to get up. I think we got Brett back there. Hold on just 1 second. Hey, he's back. Hey, Brett.
Sorry about that. My computer unexpectedly died on me. It must not have been fully plugged in, so I just fired it up here on my phone. Apologize for that.
Just as soon as you stepped out, we had a flurry of questions, so I've been trying to answer them as best I can. Drew Bradshaw is really excited about it, and I went over a little bit about the gameplay with him. But Steve Espinoza, and thanks, Drew, for checking in on the show, but Steve Espinoza has yeah, that's right, Steve. We got some success. We got Brett back. Steve has a great question. We didn't talk about the price point or if there's going to be any preview pages for the Kickstarter like some projects do. Sorry if this has already been asked. He's a little bit late, but he's a big fan of the author and the IP. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm hoping you can do, Brett. I'm hoping you can bring not only board gamers to the table, but also fans of Brandon Sanderson who are also gamers, but maybe haven't been exposed to the hobby games that you and I have been playing.
Yeah, I mean I think that's our dream in terms of designing this. You know, we're using that King of Tokyo dice rolling type of system that will be familiar to gamers, but it's not hard to grasp. But the game has a ton of depth to it in terms of the decisions you make without going, without overburdening new gamers. I would say, would a group of casual players pick up this game by themselves and go learn it? I mean, I think that they could. Would a group of strategic gamers who like tough co-ops find it challenging? I think that they would. I think there's
Okay.
different difficulties levels and setups that would intrigue them and engage them, and it plays fast. It is a simultaneous game where people are constantly doing something, and I think it's another friendly element of the design that will cater to really that different range of people that we designed for.
So Steve has two questions. Do you know a price point? And is there a preview page that's going to be posted up pretty quickly?
Yeah, preview page will probably take another week before it's posted.
Okay.
I can tell you for certain it'll be up by January 29th. I think it'll be up by next week. As
Okay.
far as a price point goes, we are estimating our MSRP on the game to be between probably 60 and 80. I would say I'm leaning closer to like the 70 mark. But it's going to depend. I'm waiting on some final quotes with all the new trays and everything to kind of figure out where it's going to land. And then on Kickstarter, we'll usually offer it for $10 less. So you can expect a deal there. I would say on Kickstarter you could see the base game going for 59, maybe 69 for the game. But we're gonna also we plan to have a deluxe version of the game, as well as potentially we'll call it an epic version of the game.
Nice.
So the deluxe version will turn all of the various resource components into metal, of course for Steelheart.
I like it.
And the final epic version will have the option, I believe, to do pre-painted miniatures for all these guys. So we're gonna have miniatures for each of the players, as well as Steelheart himself. Plus, there's about 25 enforcement miniatures, which are like some soldiers, like I said, the police force that Steelheart has. So overall, about 30 different miniatures that could be pre-painted.
Chris Strain, the designer of Asking for Troubles, says, "Hey, looks great," and he's not asking if you have any blue or orange components. So that must be a good deal. I can tell you, Chris and Steve Espinoza, that if you've ever played Stockpile, the base game of Stockpile, when you pull it out of the box for a brand new gamer, you're going to impress people. I'm giving you guys kudos, and this is just me offering it. If the Reckoners looks anything like your other games have been, you guys are going to really impress people. So
Thanks.
Hey, we sold one already. The Kickstarter hasn't started, and Steve Espinoza says, "Count me in for an epic version. Thanks for answering my questions. The design looks amazing." Hey, Drew Bradshaw has a question for you. Powers, will it be associated with the lieutenants and the high epics, or is it randomized with the art? And are they all powers that we've seen before? I'm assuming he means from the books.
Okay. So the powers are pre-assigned to epics. So the powers are meant to sort of capture at least some part of the the epic in the book series without overcomplicating it, right? Okay. Some of the powers of these epics and some of their weaknesses in particular are particularly, they really are challenging to put into any sort of game form. So the powers you'll see and the abilities that they do during the game are streamlined, simplified, but yet will, kind of capture something. So to give you an example of what I'm talking about, somebody like a Fault Line, as an example, who is one of the epics in the book series, and this is not a spoiler, one of the epics in the book series who can move, Earth, essentially like earthquake type of style. She'll have the ability to, not only hurt the city's population, but also erect like barricades, making it harder to move around the city. So sure. Just sort of a thematic thing that we believe encaptures part of her power. So hopefully that answers your question with the pairing of the powers with the epics. I think there was a second part to that question too, but I don't have it displayed on my screen anymore.
Are they all powers that we've seen before?
Yes, thank you. Yes, so they are. I'll say that they are all powers mentioned or seen. The number of characters, at least the number of epic characters in the book series that are fully developed, it was not quite enough for a game. So we took some liberty with the with the different epics. So just to give you an example, there's never like a there's never anything more than like the mention of like a water or a fire or a lightning epic or something like that. You know, the firefight, sure, but I'm just saying they weren't fully, you know, kind of developed as a main character, but the concept of what it was very apparent. So we, you know, sort of took that under the, you know, the guise of this theme and this brand and developed it into a character. So yes, you're gonna see stuff that is new in terms of like what the book is, you know, talking about and the characters therein, but the powers are going to, you know, kind of all translate back again into the simplified, streamlined game version.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo, my guest here tonight, Brett Sobol from Nauvoo Games, talking about the Reckoners. I got one last picture to show you, and it's up on the screen. That's the one that we had before you got cut off. It looks like an early prototype, maybe, of some of the minis. So this is a game that some of the fans might not know is going to have minis in this game right away, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, like I mentioned, there's six. There's a player for each, or miniature for each player. So 6 player minis. You'll have a miniature for Steelheart, and then you'll have up to 25 miniatures for the Enforcement. So really, the miniatures all move around to the different city districts. Steelheart moves every turn. Enforcement are laid out in different areas depending on the epics that come with them and or where Steelheart moves. And then the players obviously move around themselves. So lots of miniatures, lots of stuff. And yes, the image looks like a pretty early, well, we have art in there. So that's probably from an Unpub that I was at. Maybe a Play at Gen Con, but it looks like an Unpub.
Yeah, I'm glad Nauvoo Games, you guys love 6-player games. You are people after my own hearts, man. Because, I mean, 4-player games are great, but sometimes I got 5 or 6 at the table.
That's right. You know, I guess the goal in our minds would be get as many people to play your game as possible without, you know, sacrificing the integrity of the design. And, you know, we reached that point with Stockpile, I felt like, where we strongly considered adding a 6th player into it. And we messed around with it for, God, months, I feel like. And ultimately, you know, we made the call that, unfortunately, it was just one of those things. We just, you know, well, we couldn't figure out we'll call it a good way to do it.
You need to talk to Chris Strain. He's got a 7-player game, Asking for Troubles, and it plays as quick 7 as it does 3 or 4. It's amazing if you haven't played Asking for Troubles yet.
I have not. So I'll have to look into it, but you know, he probably understands the design challenge there. Where
I'm just picking.
where you know, it's hard to design for those big player counts as well as the small ones. It's a big challenge.
You guys did a good job with the 5-player count in Stockpile. I mean, I played it at 2, 3, 4. Well, no, not 2, but I played it at 3, 4, and 5, and it plays equally as well with all 3 of those play counts. I don't think I played it at 2 though.
2 is interesting. You know, in fact, I would say we designed largely for 2 players because most commonly we're playing with our spouses, and it's one of the things that needs to stand up on its own for us.
Sure.
And for Stockpile, it was a big thing. I mean, I probably played 52 player games of Stockpile, and we made a system for an auction bidding perspective to make it work for 2 players, and the main mechanic we used there, I don't know if it's a mechanic per se, but the dynamic we used is that we staggered the information. So, you know, one of the big challenges you have during the game is deciding what to do with your cards and your information, despite it being a subset of the larger picture. And if in a 2-player game, when you have a larger purview of the market, it would be super advantageous to, you know, kind of make this big combo play, but then you're kind of using too much info during the process. So you kind of get it in pieces, and half the time, you know, or, you know, the second time after you've already made your first decision, you think about it and you go, oh crap, like I wish I knew this before I just did that, because now it doesn't make any sense. So sure. That's part of the fun.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, Gumbo Live. Got Brett Sobol here. Drew Bradshaw's got another question. Will we see lots of replayability like what some of the Cthulhu gods do in some games to make it feel like a different experience? I feel like the way that you guys have designed it with the different lieutenants coming out, in addition to the big bad, there's going to be a lot of replayability.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, everything will... So let me say this. Steelheart himself, he has 4 power bars, okay? They all are changed by virtue of which epics are out. Meaning that some of the epics can, his lieutenant epics can cause, we'll call his blue power track, which is kind of like his ability to disrupt like the city and, you know, make it harder to move around in, or, you know, could impact his red bar, which is the one that generates how many enforcement come out every turn. Either of those could go up, and there's, you know, 2 others that can go up just depending on the number of epics. So from the very beginning, you can face a, you know, Steelheart that is very different from the game that you just played, where he was only doing his yellow tracks, and, you know, something very basic like that. But all the different permutations of epics that can come out, the placement that they're in, the different reckoners that you have, the different equipment cards that you purchase, all of it has, you know, additive value to make it very replayable.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo here. My guest, Brett Sobol from Nauvoo Games. We're talking the Reckoners coming out. We just found out on February 13th with Kickstarter. Got a couple more questions. We sold another epic version. Drew Bradshaw is very excited. He says, "My poor wallet." Hey, we're delivering the goods here, Brett. We're delivering the goods here. I do have another question for you. Steve Espinoza, and thanks, Drew Bradshaw, for checking in. Steve says, "Will there be multiple sculpts for enforcement for the price?" I wouldn't blame you if they're all the same, but he is curious about the multiple skulls. That would be pretty tough at that price point, right?
Well, tell you the truth, it's probably going to be a stretch goal. We've contemplated it, but it's certainly something we can do when volume reaches a certain point, because, you know, we're just really the only additive piece is mold cost at that point. And so, you know, it's something we'll probably have packed in for stretch goals, you know, I'd say early to middle through the campaign. So you can expect that.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo, Gumbo Live here with Brett Sobol of Nauvoo Games, talking the Reckoners. Brett, the last thing we do here on Gumbo Live is the Envie Game. To play the Envie Game, you just got to think of a game. It's a Cajun word that means a hankering or a really strong desire. What's that game right now that if the computer froze up again and you had a couple hours to kill, and whether it's a game you own, a game you want to own, a game you've never played, or a game you want to play all the time? Think of a game, and Steve and Drew and Chris Strain, if he's still on there, we'll try to figure it out. We'll ask you 20 questions and try to narrow it down. Look, there's only about 9 or 11,000 games on BGG, so it shouldn't be that hard to figure out this game, right?
Yeah, okay.
All right, don't tell us, though.
Okay.
Here's another guy, Ravi Persal, who is checking in, says, "I'm absolutely going to get the epic version. How hard was it to balance a character that is basically limitless, all-powerful, and distill it into the proper gameplay?"
Yeah.
We could probably do a whole show just on that question, Brett.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a great question.
That is a great question.
I would say the hardest part, probably the hardest part of this design was looking at Steelheart, and I'm assuming that's what you're referring to by all-powerful and limitless. And what we were doing was scrutinizing him and his impact on the game, and we redesigned it like probably 5-6 times. And sorry, there's a pop-up there, but I ultimately, like, 5 or 6 different design iterations on what is Steelheart's impact on the game. How do we change it, make it more big boss? How do we make it more meaningful without throwing off the balance at 1 to 6 different players? And how is it intuitive and how is it streamlined? And we really asked ourselves a lot of questions during these designs. And one of the things that I think is beautiful about how this manifested is what I'll call created this sort of it's almost vanilla to me at this point, but it's certainly not. Is this system where there's 4 bars, there's 4 different power tracks, and depending on the high epic in the game, or Steelheart or Regalia or some of the other ones that will potentially come into the expansions as big bosses, you're going to have the ability to customize these bars, potentially add in some of the new mechanics we already designed and play tested without messing up the core system that we ultimately came away with. So I would view very much the Reckoner's base game as an exploration into the Reckoner's universe with the opportunity to build on it with more expansion content. That's not going to throw off the balance or anything. It's just going to dive you deeper into this world.
Can't wait to hear it. It's February 13th, right, for the Reckoners?
That's right.
February 13th. All right, Brett, you've stalled long enough. Do you have your game for the Envie Game?
I do. Let's play.
All right, good. So the first question I'm going to ask you is it competitive or cooperative?
Competitive.
Okay. That narrows it down to about 9,500 games. Let's see if we can narrow it down a little further. Drew's already got a guess. He says Cosmic Encounter.
Nope.
Fantastic game. One of the very first games that I actually owned. Fantastic. I love Cosmic Encounter. Okay, so that one doesn't count for me. Thank you, Drew, for throwing that out. I love that. Is it an American designer or a European designer or maybe one of those new Asian designs that we've been seeing coming across?
European.
A European designer. Okay. Board-based or card-based?
Board.
Steve wants to know if it's been released within the last 5 years.
Yes.
It is, last 5 years. And you said board-based, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming it's a Euro then?
Yes.
Okay. You're a big Euro fan?
I would say I love my Euros, but I will play just about anything. So I don't really have too much of a preference.
We're always trying to pick your brain there for the
the clues.
little clues that we can get it.
Well, I can tell you if it's a European designer, you're probably on an easier track.
Yeah, that's true. If we can figure out which one. I'm a big Alexander Pfister fan myself. You a Pfister fan?
I am a Pfister fan.
That was non-committal, though, right, Steve? Steve, that didn't sound very committal. Steve wants to know, is it under the 60-minute mark to play?
No.
No, bigger game than that. So it's not a Knizia. I mean, most of his games are shorter. Not all, but most of them are shorter time lived. Does it take place in a historical or fictional theme?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is that a yes, or do you want the historical or the fantasy
answer? Is it historical or fictional?
It's historical.
Historical. Okay, so it's a city and it's got a dour guy on the front, looking real mad. I'm assuming. Hey, by the way, we got a question from Hannah. She wants to know, just real quick, are you going to maintain your spoiler-free policy and expansions? There's a lot of stuff going on in that third book that really changes everything. You know what I'm talking about, Brett.
I do. And yes, Hannah, we plan to keep it spoiler-free. Want everybody to be able to enjoy it and, pick up the books afterward and be like, oh, wow, like that, there are twists that are so core to the IP and they need to stay that way. We don't want to spoil anything, and everybody should read the books and enjoy them the same way we did.
Robbie has a question. What's the max number of players? I'm not sure if he's talking about the Envie game or about the Reckoners, so we'll go with 6 on the Reckoners. And what about on the Envie game?
I think it's 4. Pretty sure.
Oh, and he clarified. It's the max number of games, the max number of players in the game you're thinking of. So just to recap, we got a competitive game. It's a European designer. It's a Euro, right? I mean, come on, we can say that. Okay, Euro.
Yeah, I'll nod.
Or is it a hybrid?
No, it's a complete Euro.
Okay, it's a Euro. It's board-based. Came out in the last 5 years. Oh, has it won any major awards?
I don't think it has yet. It may have.
Steve, did you hear that?
It may have won an award, but it's not like, I don't know. You have to define major award.
Is it available in America right now?
Unless it's sold out, but yes, it should be.
Okay. Has it come out in the last year then?
It has. The release date, it's definitely in the last 2 years. I think it is the last year.
Man, that's a lot of good clues, Steve. Make sure that Chris Strain, you've got a huge collection. Come on, help me out here. What we got here?
Yeah. You guys have narrowed it pretty good.
Yeah, we are. Okay, so not a legacy game. Throw out space, throw out pirate. It's a historical theme. Probably got a dour man on the front. God, I'd love to say Concordia, but Concordia actually didn't win. It came out second.
It also came out like 5 or 6 years ago, right?
No, Concordia is 2014 with Istanbul.
Really?
Yep, 24. Well, I guess you're right. That's 4 years ago now. Okay, it's been a while. It's been longer than I thought.
I thought Concordia came out way longer. I thought it was like 20. Oh, was it 2013? I thought it was
2014. The Kennerspiel, it lost to Istanbul.
Oh, okay.
I only know that because I love the game.
Gotcha. Concordia is not it.
And Concordia is definitely not it. Jeremy wants to know if it's Lisboa.
It is Lisboa.
Oh my God, are you kidding? He pulled it out.
Yeah.
Okay, this is crazy. I've been learning Lisboa for 2 weeks because it's my first attempt at a Vital Lacerda game, and I really want to play it. The first attempt at playing with the Crew de Gumbo, I messed up a major rule. I messed up the cubes rule, pulling them off of the ruins, and we had to start all over again. So I've been diving in the rulebook. I went and watched Paul Grogan's video. It's fantastic, the how to play, and then I watched the entire heavy cardboard playthrough to get this game. I feel like I know it now. Lisboa, congratulations, Jeremy Hughes, pulling it out there. We didn't even finish the 20 questions, Brett. Wow. So why Lisboa?
It is one of the few designs, or at least graphic designs and art designs by Ian O'Toole, who has done pretty much all of our games, actually. So it's, I don't know, I feel like he does a great job with manifesting games, and I desire to, play games that are in his world that have good designs to them. So Lisboa is one of the few of his that I haven't played, and it's something that I've had my eye on for a while. So if I had to pick something, that would be one I'd pick if I had the time for it.
Brett, come down to Lafayette, Louisiana. I've got it. I'm ready to play with you on Gumbo Game Night. Hey, can I tell you something about Ian O'Toole? So when I looked at the game, I love European history, especially anything with Portugal, Spain, France, all those things. And when I saw the art, I was blown away because it fits the time period. But I took pictures and I showed my buddies at the Crew de Gumbo, and they instantly went, what is this, a playing card? I mean, this looks like it doesn't show up well in pictures. I brought it to Gumbo Game Night, and when I pulled out the box and I pulled out the board and the front cover and the rule book and everything, people were, blown away. They're like, wow, this looks really impressive when you see it up close.
It's absolutely stunning. I'm anxious to play it and make sure it plays in the same way. So. And
Ian O'Toole did the graphics for these games too?
Yeah, for all of ours. Crosstalk, Stockpile, Reckoners. Yep.
I did not know that. Mm-hmm. Brett, this was awesome, man. I really enjoyed it, and it's not often that somebody guesses a game. As you can imagine, with thousands of games, it's pretty tough for us to win the Envie game. I actually didn't win. Jeremy, congratulations to Jeremy. Oh, and there's Drew checking out. First time he's heard of Lisboa, and we'll have to check it out after he gets the Reckoners, of course.
Awesome.
All right, board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. I want to thank my guest, Brett Sobol of Nauvoo Games. He's got the Reckoners coming out on February 13th. It's a great chance to play what looks to be a fantastic cooperative game that really dives into the universe that, if you've read the books from Brandon Sanderson, are just waiting to pop off the page. I can't wait to see how you guys bring it to life. Brett, how can people reach you if they want to know more about Nauvoo Games or more about the Reckoners?
Yeah, first off, just follow us on social media at Nauvoo Games. You'll find us there. You can learn a lot more about the Reckoners. Be sure to check it out when it comes out on February 13th and see what our Kickstarter has to offer and see if it's for you. BJ, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for hosting me, and I wish you guys the best of luck with Gumbo, and good night, everybody else.
Sure. Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com, Board Game Gumbo. It helps us get the word out about all of our upcoming guests and shows. We've got Jamie Stegmeyer coming up from Stonemeyer Games, so take a look at that. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo. And Brett, until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler.
Thank you. Good night.
Good